Hello, I'm AxelMC131 and I'm going to be doing a little bit of Starsector kitbashing today. And I'm just going to do some random stuff and do some random commentary on it. I don't know. I watched David's spriting video earlier and I was like, now I want a kitbash. It's always how it works. You watch someone do a cool kitbash or something like that and it's like, I could do that. So I was playing around with my database here. This is my master workspace, which has all the everything I need. It's got a bunch of skins. I've got campaign things. I've got stations. I've got low tech, midline, high tech, which I can just overlay there. I've even got Tartarflet's stripped ships, and my own skins, which I don't ever use for kit bashing, by the way. Bad idea. Bad idea. And some random D skins and a bunch of different backgrounds. I don't use these as much as I should, but I'm just going to go ahead and play around with some stuff. Now, I was playing around with it earlier, and I did have an idea for something to make. This is not necessarily something that's going to be in Disassemble Reassemble or anything like that. I'm just making sprites. So I just thought, after I did that Remnant kit bash, I thought I'd have a go at doing something with some kind of commentary and explanation of what I'm doing at given points. So we might as well use this as an opportunity. I've got a Sunday afternoon, so why not? I don't really have anything else on my schedule today. So I'm going to start with the Kite S. And I was thinking of some kind of sort of shuttle-esque type thing, maybe a little bit larger, but sort of inspired by the Kite S, and also the Mercury. Where we go that? Hang on, let me leave those up. And the Mercury. And maybe a little bit of Apogee in there as well. I don't know, we'll see how it goes. But I'm going to start with the Kite S, and I'm just going to grab, I'm going to do what I just did when I was playing around. I'm just going to go 1 pixel out there, and I'm just going to grab a slice. Give me a slice. There we go. We'll just copy that out, paste that in a new layer, and I think I will do this in my standard workspace area, which is all the way over here. There we go. So this is how I kitbash. I basically don't really come up with ideas for ships as I go. I do have a sort of shape I want to make with this, but I don't tend to do like an outline or a silhouette first and then build to it. I have tried that before. It can work. It's just not sort of what I use for my workflow, because I tend to be inspired by individual parts and then work around them, rather than having an idea for an overall shape and then putting in the parts later. So I can look at the Kite S and say, this is a pretty cool shape actually, and I think I can do some stuff with this. So we'll just go from there. You can absolutely, if you're the kind of person who likes to, you know, take an actual shape design, then you can. And incidentally, I will when I'm grabbing bits. I'm just at the stage where I'm just going to grab random bits and throw them together. So I'll use either the square select, or more often I'll use the polygon select to grab selected areas. So I'm actually going to do that now, because I want this wing bit with this a little bit of blue there, and that funny little, this sort of little angle shape here. So I'm going to grab that, I'm going to copy that, paste it into a new layer, drag it all the way over. Generally I will keep things in original layers for this. I want this to be a slightly, do I want this to be slightly flatter? I don't know. It actually does follow the curve of the ship here, so I might actually leave it like that, but I do want to bring it in a little more, so I'm just going to hit T to move. There we go. We'll go back to our brush. Generally when I'm spriting, I generally just stick to a 1 pixel brush. I should move that into a better position. About there. I generally use a 1 pixel brush, and I often do a little bit of detailing as I go in, and I do zoom out a bit as I do. You should always be, when you're doing close-in details like this, you should always be zooming out to like 100% regularly to make sure it still looks alright. But I'm just going to do some little venti bits here. I don't know what that could be. Maybe some kind of like little flare port or something. You never know. We'll add a little bit of dark contrast there. Keep that slightly bright. Might brighten that up a bit. There we go. That's alright. We'll do a little bit more dark on this side. And generally speaking, I will kitbash the parts together first, but a lot of the time, especially more recent times, I've actually been doing minor little bits of paint touch-up like that, so I get an idea of what I'm creating here as I go. You don't have to do that at all, and I never used to. I would just throw all the bits together at once and then paint over them all at once, but I find this makes a more natural sort of form of the ship. I think I might actually flatten this out a little bit, so I'm actually going to cheat here. I'm going to select this area of this layer, and I'm going to hit Control T to use transform, and I'm just going to squash it a little bit. There we go, just to bring that thing a little flatter, and I kind of want this to be a more straight line. I might just get in here with I'll just do a little select here. Actually no, we'll start that lower down, just to select that sort of curving out bit, And we'll just delete that a couple of times, clear that out, and by default that will actually anti-alias it, so that's going to stay a smooth edge, it's not going to make it rough. We'll get a little dark cover in there. And lighten up the rest of the wing. Okay, sweet. So, what else can we put in here? Well, we can follow back the back of this a bit. I wonder if I want to start experimenting with some of the new bits, some of the shrike pieces, maybe. Maybe. I could absolutely use a bit of this. I like that inside bit, actually. This chunk here is quite nice. That bit. And this is just how I kitbash. I just grab, like, bits that look nice and look like they will fit with what I'm creating at the time. And sort of just slap them in where I think they would fit. I'll actually grab a bit of this as well. And what I'll do is I'll grab that, slap on top of that layer, and we'll flip it 180 degrees. Stick it there. That's not bad. I can bring that all the way up there. And I'm actually just going to use the erase tool, and shall I do some mirroring here? Yeah, I'll bring this in mirroring. Usually what I'll do when I'm doing mirrored parts is I'll do one side and then duplicate it over, but I usually do that for paint overlay. So what I'm actually going to do here is, because I'm removing bits, and I can't put, like, paste in a new anti-layer, is I'm just going to use the erase tool, and I'll probably just go up a pixel. And we'll just erase some bits to meld it in. We're just merging bits together here, you see. So I'm trying to make sort of these softer edges a bit, and we'll erase a bit of this as well. Nice. Nice, that's not bad. So you see, it already looks like a coherent ship there. Okay, we'll add a little bit of dark patch here. This is quite a dark edge, actually, so I might actually bring a little bit of light in there to contrast. We'll bring this in here. And here, now I'm actually adding paint. I can just do this in a single layer, and I'll just cut and paste a duplicated layer over later. We'll make this a little smoother. And usually when I'm spriting like this, I am using almost exclusively a 1-pixel brush. Actually, I don't like how dark that is. Usually using a 1-pixel brush, I will go to like a 2 or even 3-pixel brush if I'm covering a large area or if I'm erasing bits. But most of the time that's all I use, because all I'm doing when I'm kitbashing is grabbing bits and then blending them together. And a lot of the detail that comes in later can come in as it's like single pixel details, or developed from single pixel details, like making like little windows like this. I'll probably end up changing these later, so it's not so recognizable as a kite. And I also use, a lot of when I'm doing this blending is I'll be holding control to grab the color picker, and I'll just grab that color, and then I'll just let go of control, and now I'm painting with this color. And then I'll do control to find like this sort of intermediate bit, because it's automatically got anti-aliasing on, so we'll just do that. Actually, it might be a little bright there. I'm going to dim that down a little. There we go. And again, control to select, and we'll just drag that around a little. We'll grab one of these, see if I paint over it gets this bright bit and this dark bit, but in between it gets this sort of middle bit, and I'm just going to grab that bit. And that, I just repeatedly do that to blend colours together. That's how I sort of get these gradients, so it ends up looking quite nice. High-tech is actually quite nice for this, even though this is sort of only pseudo-high-tech, because it's taking bits from the kite. It's the same coloration, and I'm actually going to keep this bright bit further back here, because I think this should be brighter. Yeah, that's not bad. Okay, so I've done that. Do I want to carry on a little bit of brightness over here? Not quite that much. There we go. I generally work at, because of the way that I do that, with the sort of intermediate shading, I don't generally fiddle with the opacity layers. I probably should, more than I do. But I do for larger areas, when I'm painting larger areas. And also if I'm fiddling with a bit of erasing, I will sometimes go to a low opacity for erasing bits, just so I get a smoother blend. But anyway, let's actually copy that out. So, because I'm trying to keep this, because the centerline pixel list is a 2-pixel center, and you don't want the two to be exactly the same, I'm going to keep doing the center 2 pixels manually, so I don't duplicate those. I go to the side, and I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go to the other side here, and I'm going to delete that. So I've got the 2-pixel center, and then all of the left, and I'm hit Control-Shift-A to deselect. This isn't really a tutorial, but if you want to know what I'm doing, those are like the key presses I'm using. So we'll just go into tool, we'll just basically paste that into a new layer, go into tool options, flip, go back to layers, and then you can hit enter or T to confirm that, and then I just drag it over and now it's there. So we now got that. So that's looking pretty cool at the moment. So this is going to be sort of the back of the ship. There might be another engine here, I don't know. And then this is probably going to have an engine here, and then it'll come up to here maybe. Maybe? And I might have like a pod engine actually. Maybe this entire bit will just be a sort of wingish finial kind of thing, and then I can just have pod engines on the side. That would look pretty cool. Alright, let's keep going with that. I like that layered approach there. It's almost like an armor plate out the front. I wonder if we can extend that. Hang on, wrong layer. I want to be in the front layer here. That's not bad. This is a bit dark. This is quite dark actually. Fix that up. Doesn't need to be quite this dark. So at this point I'll go to a lower opacity brush just for a little more fine-tuning control here. There we go, that's a bit better. Still quite dark at this end. Nice. And what we really actually need is a lighter patch on here, like a highlight down here, and that basically shows this is like an overhanging armor plate. So we're pointing into the light here, and for those of you who don't really understand, in Starsector your shadows are dictated by your lighting and what's going on in the z-axis, and in this case in Starsector generally your lighting comes from the top, a bit from the front, and ever so slightly from the left. So generally for large surfaces I don't bother separating between like left and right unless it's like in the very center, so you can see how I've actually got slightly, well, this is actually from the kite itself, but it's got slightly brighter highlights on the left and the right center pixel. And that's where that plays in. But generally you have light from the front, so this raised piece of armor here is going to cast a shadow on the plates behind it. Now speaking of these plates behind it, I'm actually going to merge these all together. So I'm going to go to a lower opacity and a much larger brush, and I'm just going to merge this into one big plate because I don't like the greebles that are on it. I like this angle at the back though, I'll keep that, but this area here I'm going to mostly smooth out. Come back in here with a little bit of light, a little bit of dark. There's just a lot of going back and forth in my process with just color pick and paint. A little bit thick actually. Often less is more, so in that case actually I don't need a lot of line at all there. Now this angle here I'm going to bring in towards the center of the ship. I'm going to fill it out there. And what I'm going to do is bring this side bit out as sort of like a strut. So it's just an overlaying piece here that comes out to the edge of the ship, and there'll actually be a little dark patch under that. So this is casting a shadow back, but not really forwards. Okay. Ooh, that works quite well actually. Okay. And we might need another bit of darker bit coming out here. So this is probably where the underside of this wing is going to be. So I might, before I start painting that, grab some more pieces. There's also the Odyssey, but the Odyssey has a few too many curves for my liking here. That said, this bit with those nice like vent engines are pretty swish. So we're going to grab a chunk of that and see how that works. This is going to be the sort of trial and error element of this. So this is just me seeing a piece that looks like it could work, grabbing it, and then seeing if it does. So let's slap that in somewhere. Like back here. That's not awful. And this is one of those moments in kitbashing where I'm just going to spend a long time deliberating over what I want to do. And what I generally do in those situations is I'll step back from that bit and I'll look on something else. And I find that that helps just generally figure out the basic shape of it, because if something's not looking right but you're not sure what to do with it, and there's other stuff that you can do in the meantime, it's generally, I mean, there's no harm in stepping back from that section and tackling another bit in the meantime. And then you can come back later when you've got a better idea of what it is you're trying to create. Now I'm going to grab a piece of Shrike engine here for this side bit. Hang on, we've got to be upper layer. Where's the turret? There we go. Now this is the downside with doing painting as you go, is that you have to pay attention to what layer everything's in, and I am kind of screwing myself over by doing this, but it's just too much fun. I'm impatient to make it look kind of nice, so it's my own undoing really, but oh well. You absolutely can get away without doing this, so don't be afraid of leaving the polish up to the very end and just having just a bunch of seemingly loose parts that don't really fit together and then polishing them up later. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Not bad, not bad. A little bit of early greebling. Okay, save again. Now then, let's take another look at this this wing chunk. I'm going to take another look at the apogee, see if we've got anything useful here. So at the moment all I'm really doing is, I'm stuck on a bit, so I'm just sort of scanning around, and I'm also looking at some of the phase ships, because they're also a similar colour range. I'm just scanning around for bits that look like they will fit in place. Let me just hide the Luddic Church ships. Bits that look like they're going to fit in place nicely. Phase ships are a little bit curved. Could potentially use a bit of shade, but don't know. Potentially a piece of the Afflictor, like here. Maybe. They're a little bit noisy. I'd like to get something a little smoother, if at all possible. I generally like to pick from ships of like similar color schemes. I don't like doing big hue shifts to try and match colors. Like, I will do it if needed. So actually what I might do at this point, since I'm kind of a little bit lost on the high-tech frontier, is I might jump to midline and see if they've got anything. Because I could grab even like bits of the Wayfarer maybe for pieces like that. In fact, I might do that. But it just means I've got a bit more work because I've got to shift the hue, and they also have different levels of color variation. It's not just the base color. Like, this goes from sort of white to pink to orange. So if I were to hue shift that, it probably would not end up being immediately right on a high-tech ship if I were to just hue shift it into blue. So let's actually try that and see what happens. This is the reason that I tend to try and match colors. So let's go adjust, HSV adjustment, and we'll just slide this up to, where's blue? Oh, somewhere over here. But you can see it's quite a different blue. We're actually going to drop the saturation way down on that. And it needs to be a little bit more purple. Smidge more purple. And a little darker. Actually, that one worked out alright. That was quite lucky. I'm glad that that worked out. Okay. But we do have quite a different colour variation from the rest of the wing there. So I might actually make this like another chunk of overarching hull. So what would be interesting here is having like a turret here. That's not a bad idea. So let's try that. Let's space it out a little bit. Let's grab an appropriate turret mount from somewhere. Do I want to grab it from midline? Actually, don't know. This is another moment of deliberation here. I'm thinking about what I want to put where. Not the Mercury. The Hermes is good for little turret chunks like, because I like these little overlaying bits here. We'll grab that. We'll grab this sort of platform that it sits on, and a little bit behind it, not too much. The other one that I might go for is the Shepherd's turret, because the Shepherd has just an absolutely beautiful little greebly turret here, or its hardpoint mount, but again, they're quite messy, and I generally reserve that for low-tech and midline ships. But otherwise, I'd absolutely go for that. So let's just take this turret mount, paste it over here, and we'll paste it underneath that layer, just so it pops up through there, and we'll position it there. And these end up not working at all. Okay, so we'll clear those out. This is just the way the process works. Some things work, some things don't. That actually looks alright, this sort of synergy between these pieces here. I will shift this. I'll add a little bit of highlight in the right places here, just so this looks alright there. Yeah, that looks alright. Okay. And I'll use the, actually I won't use the eraser. I generally use the eraser on intermediate bits, where I know there's like full sprite behind, so I don't have to worry about like having artifacts and stuff. For an edge like this that I want to cut a chunk off, I'll just use the polygon selection tool, and I'll go out and select the area that I want to remove. And the nice thing about the polygon selection tool is if I hit delete here, it's going to delete the chunks that are fully within it, but not the ones that are on the edge. But if I repeatedly hit delete, it removes more and more from the edge. So if I actually remove that background layer, you can see how it's actually quite smooth there. Now this is an interesting shape for a high-tech ship here, but that's alright. We can actually clear that up with a little bit of that. There we go. A little bit of slightly transparent backing. That'll do fine. That'll do fine. Okay, and we will need to do something about this trailing element here. I might just replicate that front bit round, curve it under a bit, and just have it stop. Alternatively, we bring it back out here and have an actual trailing element there. Let's go with that for now. I like the way that's looking, actually. It's quite nice. It's a bit like a miniature sort of gun bus thing, just two turrets spaced apart. They'd probably have quite wide arcs. So this is the I sort of blended into that without actually saying anything. This is the point where I'm starting to think about how this ship would work in game. So even though I don't intend to implement this, because I don't tend to go into designs of kitbashing ships with a particular concept for a ship, the role for the ship develops as I sprite it. So generally, I don't. This is supposed to be a spriting demonstration, not a ship design demonstration. But this is just an element of how I'm working. So at this point, I've put some weapons in. I've put some areas where weapons can fire, and you can start to see what these arcs might be like. So this might be pretty wide arc turret mounts. And they'd probably be either energy or ballistic, or probably even hybrid mounts. And then you've got a little point defense gun at the back here. So these might even be something like... In fact, if you got really wild, these could be missile mounts. This could be like a sort of kite-heavy sort of thing, you know? So you could have turreted weapons with good fire, sort of a blockade-y ship. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm just rambling at this point. I'm just taking a moment to look at the ship as a whole, as it might function in game. Okay, let's carry on. This chunk here is kind of concerning me, so I'm wondering if I want to actually flatten this out here and just have a flat chunk there. So let's try something like that. Do we have an appropriate piece to do that? That's alright, we can make that work. And nothing on this is final at any point. You don't have to like finish that piece of shading there and now and then live with it, because it's painting. You can just go over bits and just do it as you go. At your own pace. At your own pace. That's what I like about kitbashing. You're never like forced to... You're never forced into any corners with kitbashing. You can always take a step back and be like, yeah, I don't really like that. And you can go to things and be like, I don't really like that many, many times over before you're happy with something. Now that actually looks really cool. I love that shape. That's beautiful. And you also get those moments where you see something like that and you're like, wow, how did I do that? And sometimes you can't really comprehend how you did that. I might actually try that. Let's try shaping that up a little. Bring a little more shape in there. Does that look alright? Segment it up a little? Oh, that looks nice. That looks real nice. Very sleek, very sleek. Let's get a little darker highlight there. Yeah, I like that a lot. Okay, So that one's, that's just, I'm not even explaining how I'm doing this, because a lot of it is just practice. Well, it's not so much practice, it's just trial and error. I don't really comprehend what I'm doing. I'm just alternating between the picker tool and the paintbrush, you know? That's all I'm really doing right here. And I'm seeing whether something works or doesn't. I'm not an artist. I'm not a professional artist by any means. I have no comprehension of what I'm doing in a practical sense. Right, now we need to fill in this area here. We need to fill in this block. So, let's grab a chunk of Tempest, because it's this sort of colour that we're going to. And it's sort of smoothish. Let's actually grab this bit with the big angular vent. And I'm just this is going to be like an underlayer piece, and I'll probably paint over a lot of the details, so I'll just grab a big square chunk, and I'm going to paste it underneath. This is like an early gap filling. There's one here. Whoops, I copied from the long layer. There we go, we'll just undo until we get to that. I need to be in the high-tech layer. Okay, let's try that again. Here we go. And I'll just bring that underneath to fill out that area. And I'm just going to do a quick gap filling check. Okay, so I've got some holes here. I generally save that till later, which is checking for where holes are. But I'll just do that quickly to see that that fills in the gaps around here and around here under the edges of it. So that's pretty good. So what I can then do is I might start doing an overlay paint layer. But I don't think I'll do that yet. What I'll do first is I might actually replicate this little engine piece directly behind the turret. The problem is that that risks the ship looking a bit too compact, because you sort of think, well, it's an engine here, surely the hardware for the engine is up here, but there's a turret here. So I might not do that, actually. We'll leave it like that for now. Okay. I still haven't gotten fully used to the contrast tools, but we'll just grab this curve. So what I can just do is drag the dark bits down and drag the light bits up a little, and it just makes that portion there stand out a bit more. Okay, so that looks quite neat. So we'll actually start painting over this here. Now this is a bit back in the layer, so I'll go back up to this one, where that angle piece from the Wayfarer is, and we'll paint from there. A slight orangey tone here, which is the side effect of that blue line that the Mora has, because we flipped it basically 180 degrees, the hue. Not quite, but just about. So orange has become blue, but blue's become orange. So we've got this sort of rusty tone here, and we've also got these sort of slightly greenish rusty tones from the Hermes. And just pointing out, you don't really want to get rid of those, because they actually contrast very nicely with the high-tech blue. So you've already got a little bit of nice coloration there, a bit of variation, which is really nice to have. And it's kind of a pain to add in manually, I find, like at a later date. So when you're given that option to just have it there already, it's nice to have. And in fact, I might spread this around some more. As I'm going in here, I might actually grab some of this sort of greeny browny bit and spread it around some more in this sort of defilade here. It actually does look a little bit like there's vents here, that's not bad at all. So I might actually carry with that. And a lot of this sort of kit bashing, when you're sort of just taking bits and putting them together and seeing how they fit, you will find that it evolves naturally as you go. Like, I definitely find that. Like, I don't really have a goal for what I'm doing with these. I'm just trying things and seeing how they look. And it's almost like the ship is driving itself in the kit bashing, in the spriting process. The ship knows what it wants to look like. I don't. So you sort of do a thing and the ship's like, yeah, that actually looks kind of cool. And you're like, yeah, we'll go with that. I didn't mean to make these into vents. I was trying to make a little strut around the side here, but actually they look like vents, and it actually looks pretty damn cool. So we're going to go with that. And you don't be worried if a thing doesn't turn out the way you expected it the first time you try it. That happens a lot. I'm actually going to narrow this in a bit, because that angle is very sharp. Alright, I think no matter what, we are going to need another engine bit up here, because this is looking very fragile through here, even for a high-tech ship. So I might add another engine just down a bit, actually, behind that turret. So we do have a bit of hull space in here for an engine to look like it's sensible to exist. So we'll save that. And go. How long have I been recording for now? 47 minutes. Good God, it really doesn't feel like that long. Okay, so... Although, to be fair, I feel like I'm coming towards the end stages of this, so... Generally, I preach that a kitbash frigate, will take about an hour to sprite, for me. Depends, it could be more or less depending on the layer of complexity or what kind of frigate it is, but this is just messing around, really, so... I don't have any distinct visions for this, it's just coming together with what it is. And actually, because this is sort of like a final pass now, actually I'll make sure that this is covering all the gaps. No, it's not. Okay. So this is something that I generally would do in the last stages, but I've been doing it as I go, so I might as well do it now. So I've got this big transparent gap. You can check this in if you're doing what I do and you use Critter and GIMP together. And by the way, I'm keeping this sort of frigate sized. I would check pixel mass later, but I'm fairly confident that I'm keeping this in the realm of frigate size at the moment. I'll probably check pixel mass later anyway, but if you're using both Critter and GIMP, you can use GIMP to check for partially transparent bits in a final sprite, but I tend to go a little bit more not quite as professional with it, and I just flick between a black and transparent layer and see where holes appear, because you'll see holes appear. Like, that's what this is. So what I'm going to do for that is I generally do a gap filling layer, and what I'll do is I'll grab just a chunk of anything that's a fairly neutral sort of color, not too greebly, and sort of just a plate like that, and we'll copy that in underneath everything. Although if you're putting this on together, you generally want to do it over everything, and we'll just put it in about there, and we'll go filter, adjust, HV adjustment, and we'll just knock the saturation down and the lightness way down. And this will be the gap filling layer. But I won't bother naming it because it's not really needed to be named. Okay, so we've got basically all we need for the ship. All we have to do is mirror it. So I might actually do that now before I do the painting pass, just to get a final idea of what this thing looks like. It's coming together quite nicely, actually. You never know, this might appear in Dara just because, you know, it's a nice looking little ship. Yep, that looks symmetrical to me. And merge. Wow, that's quite the ship, isn't it? That's come out real nice. I was not expecting it to look like this. It's very fancy. Alright, so now let's do some overlay painting. So we've got all these together, so we've got there, there, blep, blep, blep. It's going to pause and think about it. Thank you. and underlying. Okay, and we shouldn't have any holes in this at the moment, or we shouldn't have too many holes. Nope, looks alright. There's a bit of line here. I'm not sure which layer is that coming from. I don't like that. Let's get rid of that. It's coming from you, the engine layer. Alright. We'll just go up to there and delete it. We'll do it on both sides at the same time. There we go. Clear that out. Bring that layer back in. Okay. And we'll save again. And if you'd done this the way that I might have used to do ships, or if you prefer to do this with just kit bashing the raw pieces together and not doing any real cleanup until the end, then you wouldn't have this. But what I'd then do at this point is you add a whole new layer over the top of everything else, and I'm just going to go in and just do pure cleanup. So this is all going to be just original paint now. So I'm going to follow some of these lines, and what I'm trying to do here is I've got a lot of like these sort of internal lines and gaps and stuff, and I don't really want to just merge this whole lot into one brick and then start over again. I want to use these lines that I've already got and just work with them and try and make the shape from there. So I'm actually going to bring this down. So I've got this line here, and I'm going to merge it into this line here, and I'm going to make this one big piece. Bring this up to upper level, as it were. Is that alright being a little dark? Yeah, it probably is. Okay. So again, this what I'm doing now is all just personal preference. I can't really say, like, there's no real method behind this. It's just personal preference of what I'm doing. And I'm bringing a little bit of shape here and there, just to make sure it still looks like sort of 3D-ish. Bring in some not so light bits here and there, and make one coherent shape. Bring in some little valleys between these sort of risen bits. There we go. I might make this a highlighted bit here, actually, so this can be like a higher level. So I've got this sort of a dark patch, which is almost like a shadow here, which I'll actually make not quite as prominent, because this only needs to be subtle, and they've got quite a light bit behind it. Now what I can actually do here is put a darker bit behind the light bit again. So this represents like an edge, if you see what I mean. So this is sort of what I got over here, this sort of edge in the armor, and it does look quite nice like that. It's almost like it lifts up a step. And you can actually accentuate that even more by putting sort of little tiny vents that come out the side. It's almost like there's a diagonal line here. So if you were to look at this from the front or the back, it would go flat and then up at a 45-degree angle and then across. And then we can accentuate this flat here, which is only a pixel wide, with those vents. So it's almost like there's a gap in it. So that's what that does. So that's all I've done there. It's just a simple little detail there. I'm going to carry this further down. It's a little bit darker. And you can also go between them with a little bit of slightly lighter colour like that. It almost merges together into one big layer. It's almost like a tiered Aztec temple sort of thing, when you're going slants at this scale. Like, this is just a seam, but this is actually a difference in the z-axis. And again, this still wasn't looking quite smooth enough, so I'm just going to go over again with an even lighter colour and just keep lightening that until it looks right. We'll make it dark at the front, because of course remembering that the lighting in Starsector comes mostly from the front. Well, it's mostly from directly above, but it's slightly from the front. So if you've got this thing in front, and this behind, and this is higher, it's going to cast a shadow this way. Okay, so let's bring that in there. Whereas here, this is higher, but this is lower, but the light's coming from the front, so there won't be quite as prominent a shadow from the front direction. So you can do that. So you see how that sort of works? And it does look like there's a raised portion there. Even at this far zoom, it looks like there's a raised portion there, but the light's coming from the front. So it's casting the shadow in all directions because it's just showing a higher layer, but it's mostly casting it behind. So that's what I'm achieving there. Okay, so let's save that and then copy the layer over, see how it looks. It really looks like a bat of some kind, this ship. Okay, paste. And now you can see just how much of this is fresh paint. There we go. So that's the paint overlay that we just created. There's a lot in that, isn't there? And look at that! There we go. We got a ship. And we'll save again. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm not going to bother checking pixel mask because I'm not taking this too seriously. It's probably similar to the Brawler or the Monitor. Maybe the Kerberos. It's sort of a heavy frigate, but not with the guns of one. So this looks like something that's definitely defensive. Or maybe some kind of scout ship. You never know. It could actually be faster than it looks. Or perhaps slow but with a mobility system. I don't know, but that's implementation concepts, which I'm not going to bother with right now. So that is a spriting of a ship, and that's how I kitbash, and with some commentary. I hope that's been sort of informative, or at least entertaining, but yeah. And I think what I might do with this, I might trial it in Dara, but I might just throw it straight up onto the Discord and see if anyone wants to use it for anything, because you never know, it might be worthwhile. Hey, if you've got any ideas for what the ship could be, suggest them. Tag me in the Discord. But anyway, that's it from me. And I'll check out now. Bye-bye.